You probably have a bottle of omega-3 somewhere in your home right now. Maybe it's on your kitchen counter, next to your morning vitamins, or sitting in a cabinet you open every single day. And like tens of millions of people worldwide, you probably take it on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, believing that you're doing something genuinely good for your heart and your blood vessels. What I'm about to tell you is going to change that habit permanently, because the science is unambiguous, and it's something almost nobody in the supplement industry wants to talk about openly. Taking omega-3 fatty acids on an empty stomach, particularly if you have any of the specific conditions I'm going to describe today, does not just reduce the supplement's effectiveness. Under certain physiological conditions, it can actively trigger the very inflammatory response you were taking it to prevent. That is not a sensational claim. It is a mechanistic reality, rooted in the chemistry of polyunsaturated fat oxidation. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why it happens, who is most at risk, and precisely what to do instead. Let's start with why omega-3 became the world's most popular supplement in the first place. The story begins in the 1970s, when researchers studying indigenous populations in Greenland noticed something that contradicted everything they thought they knew about dietary fat and heart disease. These communities consumed extraordinary quantities of fat from fish and marine mammals, yet their rates of cardiovascular disease were dramatically lower than those of Western populations, eating far less total fat. The critical difference was the type of fat. Their diets were exceptionally rich in EPA, eicosapentaenoic acid, and DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, the two primary long-chain omega-3 fatty acids found in marine sources. That foundational observation launched decades of research, and the scientific literature on omega-3 now spans tens of thousands of published studies. The confirmed benefits are genuinely impressive. High-dose omega-3 supplementation reduces blood triglyceride levels by up to 45% in people with elevated triglycerides. It inhibits platelet aggregation, reducing the tendency of blood to clot inappropriately. It improves the stability of arterial plaques, making them less likely to rupture and cause heart attacks. It reduces systemic markers of chronic inflammation. DHA is a critical structural component of brain neurons and retinal cells, supporting cognitive function and visual acuity. EPA influences serotonin and dopamine signaling pathways in ways that may support mood stability and mental health. These are real, evidence-based effects, with consistent support across large clinical trials. So the question is not whether omega-3 works. The question is whether the omega-3 you are taking is working for you, or whether the way you are taking it is actively undermining its benefits and creating new problems. Here is the fundamental biology you need to understand. Omega-3 fatty acids are lipophilic, meaning they dissolve in fat, not in water. For a fat-soluble substance to be absorbed through the intestinal wall into circulation, it requires bile. Bile is produced by your liver, stored in your gallbladder, and released into your small intestine, specifically in response to the presence of dietary fat. Bile emulsifies fat into tiny droplets, small enough for your lipase enzymes to break down, and for your intestinal cells to absorb. Without adequate bile secretion, fat absorption is severely compromised. When you take omega-3 on an empty stomach, you are swallowing a concentrated dose of highly unsaturated fat into a digestive environment that has no food present to stimulate bile release. Your gallbladder remains contracted. Bile secretion is minimal. The omega-3 fatty acids arrive in your small intestine without the bile-mediated emulsification they need for efficient absorption. Research comparing omega-3 bioavailability under fasted and fed conditions found that taking omega-3 with a meal increased peak EPA blood concentration by approximately 3 times, and peak DHA concentration by approximately 2.5 times. Compared to fasted consumption, you could be absorbing just 1/3 of what you're paying for, simply because of when you take it. But reduced absorption is not the worst of the problem. What happens to omega-3 in an empty, highly acidic stomach is far more concerning. Your stomach in a fasted state maintains a pH between 1.5 and 2.0. This is an extremely acidic environment, and it presents a serious chemical hazard to polyunsaturated fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA, contain multiple carbon double bonds. EPA has 5 and DHA has 6. These double bonds are what make omega-3 biologically active and structurally flexible. But they also make these molecules highly vulnerable to oxidation. Exposure to strong acid, heat, light, and metal ions all accelerate the oxidation of polyunsaturated fatty acids. When omega-3 capsules dissolve in a fasted, highly acidic stomach, the fatty acids are exposed to the full force of gastric acid for an extended period, without the buffering effect of food. This prolonged acid exposure promotes lipid oxidation. And here is the critical point that almost no supplement, label or pharmacist will tell you. Oxidized omega-3 fatty acids are not anti-inflammatory. They are profoundly pro-inflammatory. The oxidation process produces toxic end products, including 4-hydroxynonenal and melandialdehyde. These aldehyde compounds are potent cytotoxic agents. They damage cell membranes, cause DNA strand breaks, cross-link proteins in ways that disrupt their function, and directly activate nitrogen monofluoride kappa B, the master regulatory protein of the inflammatory response. When nitrogen monofluoride kappa B is activated in vascular endothelial cells, it triggers a cascade of pro-inflammatory cytokines, including interleukin-1 beta, interleukin-6, and tumor necrosis factor alpha. These are the same inflammatory signals that drive atherosclerosis, metabolic syndrome, and chronic systemic inflammation. You intended to reduce inflammation. Instead, under fasted conditions with a compromised antioxidant defense, your omega-3 supplement may be generating the molecular machinery of inflammation. This problem is compounded by the quality of the product itself. A large-scale analysis of commercially available omega-3 supplements, conducted across multiple countries, found that approximately 68% of products tested exceeded internationally recommended oxidation thresholds before they even reached the consumer. Nearly 27% exceeded the threshold by more than double. This means that in a majority of cases, consumers are starting with an already oxidized product, delivering it to a highly acidic fasted stomach, and then wondering why they feel no benefit, or even feel worse after taking their daily omega-3. Now let me tell you which specific conditions dramatically increase the risk of this oxidation-driven harm. The first high-risk condition is gastroesophageal reflux disease. If you have acid reflux, your lower esophageal sphincter does not seal properly, allowing acidic stomach contents to wash back up into the esophagus. When you take omega-3 on an empty stomach in this condition, the oxidized fatty acids and bile acids that reflux into the esophagus carry these toxic lipid peroxidation products directly onto an already compromised mucosal surface. Research comparing fasted and fed omega-3 consumption in reflux patients found that 63% of participants in the fasted group reported worsened symptoms, compared to only 12% in the group who took omega-3 with meals. If you have reflux and you've noticed that your omega-3 supplement makes your heartburn worse, this is mechanistically why. The second high-risk condition is gastritis or peptic ulcer disease. An inflamed or ulcerated stomach lining has already lost the protective mucus barrier that shields the underlying tissue from acid and other damaging substances. Introducing oxidized lipid aldehydes directly onto this damaged tissue amplifies the inflammatory injury. Helicobacter pylori infection, which is present in a substantial portion of the population, creates an additional complication as the toxins secreted by this bacterium can further accelerate lipid oxidation in the gastric environment. The third high-risk condition is gallbladder dysfunction or prior cholecystectomy. Removing the gallbladder eliminates the reservoir where concentrated bile is stored for on-demand release in response to fat intake. After cholecystectomy, bile drips continuously in small amounts from the liver into the small intestine, rather than being released in a concentrated bolus. When a large dose of omega-3 arrives at once, the available bile may be insufficient for complete emulsification. Incompletely emulsified fatty acids remain in the intestinal lumen, where bacterial fermentation can generate secondary bile acids and promote intestinal inflammation. If you've had your gallbladder removed and frequently experience digestive discomfort after taking omega-3, this mechanism is likely responsible. The fourth high-risk condition is elevated oxidative stress from lifestyle factors. If you smoke, drink alcohol regularly, are under chronic psychological stress, or train at very high exercise intensities daily, your systemic antioxidant capacity is already substantially depleted. In this state, the antioxidant defense systems that would normally intercept and neutralize oxidizing lipids are weakened. Vitamin E, the fat-soluble antioxidant, most critical for protecting polyunsaturated fatty acids from oxidation, may be inadequate to handle the oxidative load generated by poorly emulsified omega-3 in a fasted stomach. Taking omega-3 while smoking, for example, creates a physiological contradiction. You are simultaneously introducing a potent pro-oxidant stimulus through tobacco smoke and attempting to deliver a highly oxidation-prone molecule in a fasted acid environment. Understanding what to look for in an omega-3 supplement is as important as knowing when to take it. The market is flooded with products of wildly varying quality, and the difference between a high quality and a low quality omega-3 supplement is not just a matter of price. It is a matter of whether the product is actually delivering active anti-inflammatory compounds, or whether it is delivering a pro-inflammatory oxidation product. Omega-3 supplements come in three primary molecular forms. The triglyceride form is closest to the natural structure found in fish and has the highest bioavailability and the best oxidative stability. The ethyl ester form is a product of the concentration and purification process, in which glycerol is replaced with ethanol. Ethyl ester omega-3 is more prone to oxidation than the triglyceride form, and it must be enzymatically reconverted to triglyceride form in the intestine before it can be fully absorbed. This additional step reduces bioavailability, particularly in fasted conditions, and increases the window of time during which oxidation can occur. The re-esterified triglyceride form represents a processing step that converts ethyl esters back to natural triglyceride structure, recovering much of the bioavailability advantage. The phospholipid form, found primarily in krill oil, is structurally integrated with the phospholipids that make up cell membranes, offering superior absorption and preferential delivery to the brain. It is the optimal choice for cognitive health purposes, though those with shellfish allergies must avoid it. When selecting an omega-3 supplement, look for the following quality indicators. The product should specify its molecular form and indicate re-esterified triglyceride or phospholipid form if possible. Mixed tocopherols or vitamin E should be listed as an ingredient, serving as antioxidant protection during manufacture and storage. The TOTOX value, which measures total oxidation, should be disclosed on the label or available from the manufacturer. International guidelines recommend a maximum TOTOX of 26, with premium products typically below 10. Products should be stored in dark, airtight containers and refrigerated after opening. Freshness can be verified by piercing a soft gel capsule. Fresh omega-3 should have no unpleasant odor or only a very mild ocean scent. A rancid, fishy, or metallic smell indicates significant oxidation. Now let me give you the complete protocol for maximizing omega-3 effectiveness, while eliminating the risks we have discussed. The single most important change most people need to make is simply taking omega-3 with food, specifically a meal that includes some dietary fat. The fat content of the meal stimulates bile secretion, which is essential for omega-3 emulsification and absorption. A meal does not need to be high in fat to achieve this. A tablespoon of olive oil in a salad dressing, a quarter of an avocado, a small handful of nuts, or a piece of fish is sufficient to stimulate meaningful bile release and transform your omega-3 absorption from poor to excellent. The second key optimization is splitting your daily dose. Rather than taking your entire daily omega-3 dose at once, divide it between 2 meals. If your target is 2,000 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA per day, take 1,000 milligrams with breakfast and 1,000 milligrams with dinner. Divided dosing reduces the concentration of fatty acids, arriving at any single point in the digestive system, improves total absorption efficiency, and reduces the likelihood of digestive side effects. Third, time your larger dose in the evening when possible. Triglyceride synthesis peaks during overnight hours and evening. Omega-3 dosing shows greater efficacy in suppressing hepatic triglyceride production. Cell membrane repair and systemic inflammation resolution are also most active during sleep, creating a favorable window for omega-3 to exert its anti-inflammatory effects. Fourth, pair your omega-3 with vitamin E or ensure your diet provides adequate mixed tocopherols. Natural vitamin E in the form of mixed tocopherols is the primary fat-soluble antioxidant, protecting polyunsaturated fatty acids in both the supplement and in your body. Without adequate vitamin E, the cellular membranes where omega-3 is incorporated become more vulnerable to oxidative damage rather than less. Many high-quality omega-3 products include mixed tocopherols. Precisely for this reason, let me address the major misconceptions about omega-3 that lead people to either overuse, misuse, or abandon this genuinely valuable supplement. The first misconception is that more omega-3 is always better. There is a dose threshold beyond which omega-3 supplementation creates risks that outweigh benefits in most healthy individuals. Daily intake exceeding 3,000 mg of combined EPA and DHA without medical supervision has been associated with excessive platelet inhibition, leading to abnormal bleeding, paradoxical increases in LDL cholesterol in some individuals, overly suppressed immune responses that may increase infection, susceptibility, and additional metabolic burden on the liver, particularly with ethyl ester forms. For general health maintenance in healthy adults, 1,000 to 2,000 mg of combined EPA and DHA daily is appropriate. Higher doses for specific medical conditions, including hypertriglyceridemia, require physician oversight. The second misconception is that plant-based omega-3 from flaxseed, chia seeds, and walnuts is equivalent to fish-derived EPA and DHA. These plant sources contain alpha-linolenic acid, a shorter-chain omega-3. The human body converts alpha-linolenic acid to EPA at a rate of roughly 5 to 10%, and to DHA at a rate of approximately 0.5 to 4%. This conversion is insufficient to meet the needs for EPA and DHA that drive the documented cardiovascular and neurological benefits of omega-3. People following vegan diets can obtain direct EPA and DHA from algae-based omega-3 supplements, which are the original marine source from which fish accumulate their omega-3 in the first place. The third misconception is that omega-3 produces noticeable effects quickly. The anti-inflammatory and cardiovascular benefits of omega-3 operate through gradual remodeling of cell membrane, fatty acid composition, and sustained modulation of inflammatory signaling. Meaningful changes in plasma EPA and DHA concentrations require a minimum of 8 to 12 weeks of consistent daily supplementation. Inflammatory markers and functional outcomes require similar or longer timeframes. Abandoning supplementation after 2 weeks because you feel no different is analogous to planting a tree and digging it up the following week. Here are 3 practical recipes built around omega-3 rich foods that also provide the antioxidant cofactors needed to protect these fatty acids from oxidation. The first is a baked herb salmon with tomato and spinach. Place a 4-ounce salmon fillet in a baking dish. Surround it with a half cup of cherry tomatoes and a handful of baby spinach. Drizzle with 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. Add fresh lemon juice, minced garlic, salt, and black pepper. Bake at 325 degrees Fahrenheit for 18 to 20 minutes. Until the salmon is just cooked through. The low-temperature baking preserves omega-3 integrity. The tomatoes provide vitamin C and lycopene, both of which protect the fatty acids from oxidative damage during cooking and digestion. This single serving delivers approximately 2,000 to 2,400 milligrams of EPA and DHA.